I was doing a little bit of playing around recently in one of my favorite little universes, the Alien universe, and kind of closer look at a variant of the pulse rifle kind of just irked me a little bit. So I'm going to redesign it. Hi there, lead instructor Laspina, owner of Spear Training Group here. In addition to normal training and on-the-range training that we do for professionals in the industry and private citizens as well, we will also provide consultation services to people in the entertainment industry, be it interactive media or video game developers and writers, as well as movie writers and stuff, to make sure that the props and things that they're using are realistic and adequate and give consideration to the universe they're doing. Now, it's important to note that the things that we do for an actual client are much more in depth than what we're going to be looking at today, but this is just a small glimpse behind the curtain about how consultation services may look. So before we get too deep, I need to make a couple of little disclaimers here. A general guideline of what this is going to be. We've already done quite a bit of episodes like this on another channel, Coyote, with KYOT, looking at the weapons of the Halo universe, and we have been getting amazing feedback from that, and it has helped to kind of develop the form of this video. So I have to go over a few little disclaimers before we get too far along, so you understand how these videos are going to work and understand the general layout of things. For example, we're going to be going over the Alien Pulse Rifle. I believe it's the M41 A1 Pulse Rifle. We'll look at that more here in a minute. So we have a few considerations to make. Now, the Alien universe, as I understand it, was first a movie, and then it started creating offshoots of books after that, and then it started obviously becoming some video games and stuff. So generally what we would see there is it's going to follow rule of cool, or in the case of video games, that would be rule of gameplay, just as like rule of cool. You want to make something interesting, cool, nice, unique. That's rule of cool. Then there's a rule of lore. You'll see this as it is written in media first, as say a book. You'll see that in, say, like the Lord of the Rings. If you're gonna, well, create movies for the book that's already written, then it starts as rule of lore and then gets moved into rule of practical. In the case of Aliens, it starts as a movie, then gets written in the books, so it gets written into rule of lore. And then if it's more or less based on real events or real weaponry, real equipment and stuff, it's going to generally follow rule of practical. But there's always going to be some skirting somewhere in here to make things interesting. That's the kind of key point here that I want to get at. Where you get a disconnect sometimes is sometimes whenever someone's writing a book or creating a game, they don't usually look at this too hard. They know it exists in the world, and they just kind of gently guide it towards what they want to make. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, the purpose that we have here, and the part of the service that we provide, is taking a realistic look at some of the weapons or some of the equipment, and the in-depth look at what might make sense or what might make more sense, or considerations that weren't considered. So in the case of Alien, it was created as a movie, and then there were some books. Now, I'm aware that the original M41 pulse rifle was largely created based off of a Thompson variant, and I believe an 870 variant with the SPAS forend here, that little heat shield that the SPAS has. So this is already really good, because it means these are based off of practical real world designs already. So there's not much editing that we're going to have to do, but we are going to take a closer look at that. So in that case, the original design already fell pretty close to practical, right about here, would say. And they just created what they wanted to make look cool, and that's great. In order to explain what we're looking at, be it the pulse rifle here, we have to look at the role of this. This is a standard issue weapon for the universe. So it's generally going to fall in the middle of a few broad categories for firearms, being accuracy, firepower, and compact. The most compact weapons would be something like a pistol or a PDW. So those would land over here. If it was highly accurate, like say sniper rifles and stuff, it's going to land high up here on accuracy. And if it's a high firepower, like rocket launchers or anti-material rifles, it would end up over here. And you'll find that some items end up in various places all along the board. This just kind of helps explain what we're generally looking at. A role for an assault rifle, a standard issue weapon like that, is generally going to be as middle of the ground as you can make it. One of the big things with standard issue assault rifles that you're creating a lot of is to have as many universal or plug and play roles as you can. So that's what we want to make sure that we're creating. Something that is versatile and capable in a lot of forms, but not necessarily amazing at any one particular thing. Our action, based off of a Thompson action, we know for a fact that it works and functions, so I don't have to make any changes there really. Barrel, again, based off the Thompson barrel. The Thompson was originally chambered in .45 caliber. This is chambered in 10x24. We'll look more into that here in a little bit. So I don't really have to change anything there. The barrel dimensions and the length and all that makes sense for what they're saying it's chambered in. Muzzle device, there is no muzzle device. So we're gonna need to remember that part. Magazine, this was a big one. This whole housing and shroud, it doesn't need to be there. This base plate doesn't need to be there. We'll look more into that here in a minute. Trigger, this is the kind of an original trigger from a Thompson. Not bad, but can be updated to more modern designs. Same with this trigger over here. Charging handle on the side. This severely limits its use case and who can use it and how easy you can get in there. And the fact that this is kind of recessed into this little nook of the body of the weapon, that makes it harder to get to. There are pros and cons to having harder to get to charging handles, but in this particular case, we are going to edit that. Grip. This is a really weird back swept grip. This means all of your fingers are going to get jammed into this little groove. It's not going to be very comfortable to shoot. And I know it gives that sci-fi aesthetic again, right? Real cool. But we're definitely going to be changing that up. That would really be a horrible kind of grip to hold on to. General ergonomics. Ergonomics is kind of a hard thing. The best way I can explain it is imagine you're running through the jungle with an umbrella. Would you rather have that umbrella open or closed? Having the umbrella closed is good ergonomics. Having it open, not so good ergonomics. So we're gonna make some minor adjustments to the ergonomics here. Stock. This is a fairly weak stock. Even in some of the images I'm able to find, it does have some reinforcement that exists. But if you are, say, setting this thing down kind of rough on the butt plate, it's possible that this butt plate can bend. We want to add a little bit of reinforcement there. And I do know that it extends under here and has kind of a reinforcement or extension plate in there. Ideally, we would kind of put that on the sides of the weapon. We'll go over that more there. Sighting system. I know there's a large landing groove under here. We're going to look into that as well. So now you get the general overview of what we are going to be looking at. Is for our quote-unquote grenade launcher that's attached to here. Be it in 12 gauge, you're not going to get a huge grenade out of this. But hey, several hundred years into the future, maybe technology's better. So let's actually take a deeper look. Now how we're going to do this, we're going to pull this directly from Wiki. I don't know all the intense ins and outs of all of the lore, so I generally will reference somebody else doing a lot of the work. Wiki does pretty good at that. 90 round or 99 round detachable box magazine. That there's no way that's going to be the case. I've seen some description that says this is a conveyor. mechanism, implying that all of these rounds are just stacked in here and going around in the magazine. Okay, let me explain that a little. So 10 by 24, these are very static dimensions for a cartridge. It is a 10 millimeter round in I believe it's diameter, if I'm getting my terminologies right there. 10 millimeters in diameter is the actual cartridge. It's slightly smaller than 45, so all is good there. What that means is that tells us a very critical component of measurement here. By 24. One of the interesting things with whenever we do metric measurements is 24 doesn't necessarily imply that the entire case is 24 millimeters overall. In fact, if this was 24 millimeters, caseless or not, overall, it would be smaller than 10 millimeter auto that you see here. We have overall length of 32 millimeters. So that means it's this technical chambering is smaller than 10 millimeter auto, which is, don't get me wrong, is a pretty good sized bullet. But compared to the model and what we actually have to work with here, it's not as substantial as it sounds. So, what that leads me to believe, maybe it's actually longer than 24. So as an example, here is 762 by 51. Under that same naming, you could assume that 51 would be the overall length. Well, it's not actually the case. The overall length is about 69, 70 millimeters. So you can see there that it says 51, but the actual overall length is 70. You have a few extra millimeters of play. And if we take a look at some of the images, which I know this is from a video game, not necessarily from lore, but you can see that the rear of the casing or the composite material that's going to be exploding appears to be completely separated from the bullet itself that is being projected out of the barrel. This is extremely important. That means we have an overall case length that is probably going to be longer than 24. Now, I am aware that if I click on this link, I can see examples of caseless ammunition, but examples of real-world caseless ammunition are not examples of fictional caseless ammunition in game, as we can actually see from this demonstration here. And one of the things I do want to point out as well, we can see in this magazine design that it appears that it is a bit longer, subjecting it to that same theory that it's probably longer than 24, which is perfectly okay, but that's important to note. So all that information gives us is measurements in all three of the dimensions that we need to calculate for. I won't bring up the math here, but whenever we're calculating for, say, volume of a magazine, we have some approximations that we can actually pull. For example, this tells me the overall length of the weapon. I can come in here and take pixel to millimeter measurements. If you see at the bottom of my screen here, whenever I'm stretching, it tells me how many pixels wide it is. I can take pixel measurements. I can take those measurements and apply them directly to the magazines, as you see here, so I can get magazine measurements. And from those magazine measurements, I can assume a general volume of the magazine. Now, it is a much more liberal assumption because I'm not accounting for, say, how thick these case walls might be. I'm just assuming that they are Space Magic strong. So, every single calculation I am able to pull, there is no possible way, in zero sense of the definition of it, there's no possible way any of the magazines related to the pulse rifle can contain 99 rounds of 10 millimeter by 24. It is just completely implausible. It's not going to happen. It also states in one of the descriptions that this magazine has a conveyor like magazine material or something in it, which would imply, let's assume that this is forward, that would imply that all these rounds are just stacked in here and somehow getting fed in. Having extra feed material or mechanism in there like a conveyor material means there's less space for ammunition, so it's less plausible. So this would be something that we would consult and correct in the design and writing process. Now, is it really cool that this gun has 99, 95 rounds? Yeah, it's really cool, but it's not practical. It's not something that is going to actually exist. So let's take a look at some of our other descriptions here. Rotating breech, electronic pulse action. I don't know what electronic pulse action is supposed to mean. That is supposed to... It's one of those things where sci-fi movies start stretching their explanations a little farther than they're really capable of explaining. Because I'll TLDR this. When you go to read all of this, it sounds good until you start reading it. It was justification lore. So again, this is a classic case of this is what was written, this is the gun that was designed, and the lore started to write things that made it make sense. That doesn't mean it actually makes sense, but they started justifying original design philosophy. Part of the other reason that I believe this case is going to be large or longer than the original 10 by 24 millimeter caseless is because of the range on here. 10 millimeter in and of itself is an extremely capable round, but the stated effective range of about 500, was it 500 meters? Yeah, 500 meters effective. That's a pretty good stretch. So one of the things that makes quote unquote effective range is it means it is still accurate and lethal out to that range. 10 millimeter auto can technically reach out to that range, but it's not to say that it's going to be substantially accurate. So having an extended case length or overall length, as we explained a minute ago, is much more likely in this case. That way we get a faster burn rate, a faster acceleration of the projectile, therefore stabilizing it for longer range. So this is just reinforcing that this is probably overall length longer than 24 millimeters. That'll come into play when we look at our rendition. Some of these other descriptions tell us that we have electronics in our carry handle and in our grip, if I remember correctly. Be it that this is so far into the future, yes, I'm acknowledging that this movie was made way back when, the 70s, 80s. That technology wasn't quite up to par. But being that this is so far into the future, the fact that there has to be battery compartments in here, or electronics up here, in order to power what appears to be a magazine reader of some kind, that doesn't seem feasible. If at all, you would put that component probably in your grip. That way it's just less wiring and less complication. Having it all the way back here means you kind of got to route it down here and do all that. And that makes this a non-modular component, so less flexibility in design. Besides a round counter, they're really cool, and it is very much a sci-fi thing. There are a couple of different ways that you might be able to do it, but no one's really been able to do it super effectively. We're not going to change it because we are assuming some level of space magic in play, so we're just going to leave that as is. As I stated with our charging handle here, this is kind of a little bit of a nook. Remember, this body of the firearm actually comes out of the weapon a little bit, so you kind of got to hook your finger in here just to pull it back and charge it. That's a little unergonomic, and it's only really right hand friendly, which, don't get me wrong, lefties deserve their bullying. But it's something that we need to consider whenever we are considering a standard issue weapon for a military. About 10% of your population are lefties, So you've got 1 in 10 people that need to be trained a completely different way just because of the design of a weapon. So we're gonna kind of alter that a little bit. Let's see. Overall, some of the other interesting things, I didn't touch on it too much. The shotgun, underbarrel grenade launcher, well, pump action grenade launcher that it is still chambered in a 12 gauge, even whenever we do the pixel to millimeter conversions that I've already explained. So they're packing a quote unquote grenade launcher capability into a very small form factor. Modern grenade launchers are in 40 millimeter. To give comparison, shotgun chamber size is about 12.7. I don't remember. It's not too far off from about 50 cal. You can stick a 50 cal cartridge inside of a 12 gauge barrel. So it's a little larger than 12.7. I just have to go look it up. So, point being, it's 12 gauge barrel is substantially smaller than what we would call a modern day grenade launcher. That doesn't mean it's not realistic. It's just that you need to have the right composite components. You would have to explain it as in we have better explosive materials and we're able to pack them into a much smaller package and send it out. Because remember, let's say this is your grenade that's actually being propelled out of the grenade launcher. You have to have an outer casing. You have to have some way to arm that grenade. Yeah, let's make our jokes now. This is looking great, ain't it? But we have to have some way to arm this grenade so as soon as it impacts something, it actually detonates. That means we have to have powder charges and everything like that in there. And then is this fragmenting? So we have to have fragmenting designs. Is this just high explosive? What type of design are we dealing with here? So whenever we start reducing size and overall package like that, we start losing capability. That would be your payload that you can deliver. But again, hundreds of years in the future, maybe that is the case. So let's take a look at a more practical variant or an edited variant of what the pulse rifle could be. And again, remember, these are based off of already existing firearms. They're already proven to be useful and capable. So there's not a huge amount of alteration that we really need to do. All right, let's go ahead and start from the front. First off, we have... is this color on there? No. First off, we have a flash hider. Considering this is a standard issue weapon for a military or military-like organization, being able to hide your signature is extremely important. Yes, you could put a suppressor on there, but suppressors come with a lot of other downsides too, most notably overall length. And we have found out through, say, like our Marine Corps today, we have found that there is a certain benefit to having a very loud weapon. So you don't necessarily want suppressors on everything. And in this case, we're going to opt for a flash hider just to reduce signature. And as we found out with the M16 generations, from the early generations till about the A2, we don't want porting all the way around here, because porting going downwards means whenever we shoot, some of this gas comes down and it's going to kick up dust, further giving away our position, defeating the purpose of a flash hider. Not to mention, having these ports only on the top means that it's going to help keep our muzzle climb down a little bit, adding a compensator-like effect. One of the other things I did do, you can see I cut away this strut that existed, a connector. It is very symbolic for the original design, but we have all of this other reinforcement on here, so there's no real need to have that more forward strut mounting everything. In theory, I could even just reduce all of this strut, but it's one or the other. It doesn't really matter which, but it's just something to consider in the design. On the shotgun pump here, we added just a little bit of a crow's head or a crow's beak here. just to help protect against sliding your hand a little too far during the recoil process, or as a reference point under extreme stress. It's not uncommon for your heart rate to get up to 150, 160, 170 under extreme stress. And it's possible, well, not possible, it's kind of inevitable that you're not going to grip or grab onto your weapon how you did in training. So having a reference point or something to just protect against the hand is very important. Next little bit, let's take a look at this trigger guard and magazine. So first off, our trigger, it's a little small here, but it does allow us plenty of room to pivot the trigger. These are usually going to be double action triggers if it's a grenade launcher. So they're pretty stout and pretty long pull, so it's not bad that it's like swept up like this. I just don't like all of this excessive gap. That's places for things to get in. So we made the trigger just a little wider, little longer, and we reduced some of that gap a little bit. As for our magazine body here, why does all of this need to be present? I'll tell you why. Because it's cool. But more so, we have a few different guns out there that kind of have magazine bodies like this, but we found out that they're just really not super necessary. The most modern variation I could think of would be like the Kriss Vector, which completely houses a magazine body all the way to the base of the magazine. Very similar to this, actually. In the Kriss Vector's case, they do that because they have to have mechanical bits behind the magazine, so they have to shield it, so, well, may as well make the magazine mag well that long anyway if you're already needing material there. In this case, there's no other components in this mechanism, so there's no reason to make it that way. This is, in the grand scheme of things, whenever you're making hundreds of thousands of these, in the case of a standard military weapon or a rifle, saving a little bit of material here will add up over time. So let's go ahead and save it. As for our magazine, you can see here, we just have a straight wall magazine. Again, we're assuming this is a little longer than 24 millimeters, more or less probably around 30 to 35 millimeters. With magazines, you do generally have to have some reinforcement in here as well, as you can see. So the round doesn't just go from one end to the other necessarily. It's actually, let me draw it down here where it's going to be a little friendly. It's actually about sitting in there like that. In our case, about like that. Not to mention, there has to be a spring that loads this thing and a follower that feeds it in there. So you don't actually get a full magazine, say, of ammunition. This is going to be our spring. So above this would be your ammunition. And even in again, we already did the measurements. Even if we did a double stack orientation, we're going to be lucky to get 25 rounds in here, but it's possible. If we take some assumptions that spring technology are really good in this universe, and we take some assumptions that feed mechanisms, and like this being we're going to assume this is a dual feed magazine and mechanism. That way it just maximizes the amount of room that we have. Because this magazine needs to go all the way up to about here where the round is going to be fed into the chamber. And that equates out to about 25-ish rounds. Again, it's extremely variable because we're assuming follower, spring, and stuff. But that does bring it out to about the same drop as what we have. In no way is it going to be 99, but that's about what it would actually look like. Let's go on up and look at our fire control systems. These are all actually originally from the Thompson. We have magazine releases. We have multiple fire selectors here that exist. There we go. Multiple fire selectors that exist here, one being safety, one being a fire selector. We have a magazine release kind of thing. The thing is we learned kind of quickly from the Thompson that there are better ways to do this. And we learned it from other weapons too, but the Thompson being what this is based on, that's what we're going to talk about. So a simplification of it, only one of these now is a fire selector. And you can see we kind of just have a safe, semi, and auto option. Being a 900 round per minute rifle, that's a pretty fast fire rate. But having less ammunition than we used to, we might want to have semi as an option. We also have a ambidextrous magazine release here. There's going to be one on this side and on the opposite side, and it is kind of recessed and protected by this body or shell that exists. Our trigger has also been flattened out. We messed with our trigger there. We reduced this little bit of bulk here because now we have our magazine release and everything, so no need to have all that there. Up to the top, our charging handle has been opted for a more centered up charging handle, so lefties, the 10%, they can get in there too. And we're going to assume that there's a little bit of a release mechanism in here, so it's not going to reciprocate with the bolt, but as soon as you come in here, the trigger will slightly pivot backwards, and then that will release it to go its full length. Now, there could be said that, oh, well, the stock is going to get in the way in here. Yeah, it probably would. But same point, this is actually a pretty good length to pull. There's no real need to go much further back. But if we run these bars along the side, or if we just cut an opening in those bars for the charging handle to slide through, it will still work perfectly fine. And using this big block as a guide, it's going to reinforce whatever position these bars are in, or even if there's less material of those. So we can still work this charging handle. Now, we do have sights. You can kind of see them, and we can actually see in some of the variations of media that they do have sights on the actual rifles. One thing you want to be careful with is whenever you're using this gutter style sight, it's really easy to make the gutter just a little bit too big or a little bit too small. Like if you were to look from the rear of this weapon all the way to the front, it would be really horrible. You have a really narrow field of view down that sight line. Even in some of the other variations where they open it up, because of how your eyeball works and depicts different distances and stuff, it just gets more and more narrow the further down it goes. So in this model, we are going to assume that the rear sight is raised up just a little bit above. That way it's still protected. And our front sight is raised up just a little bit above as well and still protected. You can see I added in a little dot here. I'm going to assume that there is a grenade launcher sight in here that you can just get your fingernail, pick it up. Now you have a grenade launcher sight that you can witness through your front sight in order to actually fire this thing accurately as a grenade launcher that it apparently is. Next up, we have our grip. As I said, our earlier grip is going to be really kind of horrible. If you assume that you have your thumb on here, your finger in here, and all of your other fingers are wrapped in here, they're going to get forced into this little nook. They're going to go straight in here and be all cramped together. So we want to try to evenly distribute that a little bit. One of the biggest things that you can do to get better control on your weapon is get a proper grip on it. A good solid grip where one where your thumb and palm are pressing into each other. Basically, you kind of create a little equal opposite force here. And you want to make sure that it's not pressing directly from one position, it's pressing from multiple positions. So leveling out that grip is going to help out overall. And I think the last item on our agenda here is this stock. You can see we have a little bit of a reinforcing bar. As I've stated earlier, with the original design, if you were to say bang this into the ground at a slight angle, it's possible this stock would bend inwards, and now a critical component of what makes your rifle effective is now off center or messed up a little bit. Is there better material science in this future? Probably. Is it not Is it just no longer possible that that's going to be the case? Yeah, probably not. So we added a reinforcing bar along the back, and we also added just a little bit of material here. So be it this might be plastic or a little bit of a rubber plate, doesn't really matter. Just something to absorb little impacts and distribute that mass a little bit better on the shooter or whatever it's hitting is going to help absorb recoil and energy, make sure it doesn't get damaged overall. So just as a recap, the overall gun being based on real life weapons kind of bolted together is great. That means there's not a huge amount of practicality change that we have to make, but there are a lot of little minor things here and there that we just might want to update. Overall, even though I absolutely love the aesthetic of the pulse rifle, it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the most signature and recognizable sci-fi weapons out there. If it were to actually be practical and usable, we would want to make some of these changes. As an example, we're going to take very heavily away from the art style doing this. This entire shrouded component does not really need to exist. It could be said it's all there for protection of the weapon, whatever the case is. If we were able to just cut off this and leave the open top, we would already have a more ergonomic weapon, something that could just be moved around a lot easier. Some of this excessive bulk to the left and right sides could be cut away, exposing the barrel. I guess that'd be is that a trunnion on the top? I'm not sure the technical name. But the fore end and railed bits and all that, we could increase our capability by reducing some of these things, but of course, to have that signature identity of the weapon, we're going to keep it on there. One of the things I don't go over too heavily in this video is there's a spectrum. On one side of weapon design for entertainment is the rule of cool. These are the fun things, the bombastic things. And generally, because we want it to be fun, we're going to lean in that direction. On the other end, we're going to have practical, realistic weapons. The M41 pulse rifle overall is actually leaning, it's about midway, but it leans a bit towards more practical as opposed to some of the other guns in the genre. My intent is to change it a little bit more. I'm not quite taking it to 100 or 95%, but I want it to be a little bit more practical. Retain some art style, but make it look interesting too. That is the goal that we're going to achieve. That is what we have for the M41 pulse rifle from the Aliens universe, and making it slightly more practical and user-friendly. Hope you have enjoyed, and I hope to continue on. Please let me know what weapons you want to see next. We actually have a pretty solid list going forward of a lot of recommendations from our videos we've already done with Coyote. And that includes some weapons from, say, Titanfall, Gears of War, and Warhammer 40k. So we're going to be getting to those eventually. So stick around if you want, or not. You do you. Have a good one.